When I was going through cancer, which I went through twice, I was part of the wellness community back in Los Angeles, and it was a place where cancer patients got together and were able to meet with each other and support each other emotionally. So I really appreciate just seeing that same work being done in so many different ways. You're able to hear me?
Yes, and I'm hearing you well. Are
Okay.
anyone else having trouble with sound?
It's echoing now.
A little echoey.
I,
Let's see.
I could
Okay.
be my system. I know.
I think I've got two. Wait, is that right? Do I have two Ryans? Ryan, I think I have you on here twice.
Yeah,
Yeah, you have one with my wife's picture on it.
Right.
okay, I'm gonna leave.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, that's what
That
it was.
that might have been the echo. Yeah.
Yeah. So there
Okay.
we go.
Great.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
that sounds better. Okay.
Well, continuing along, at 39 years old, I got testicular cancer. And it was a simple tumor removal. And then 2 years later, I had a metastasis into the retroperitoneal lymph nodes, which was much more serious. And from that, I ended up going to the Cancer Treatment Centers of America after trying many holistic methods. I went to Mexico for 3 different holistic approaches, none of which worked. I saw them working for other people. They didn't work for me. So finally, I had to go medical. I was trying to avoid chemotherapy. So I got myself into the Cancer Treatment Centers of America after a lot of looking around, where would I go? And that was very lucky because it ended up, long story short, they hired me to do sound work, sound therapy work in their facility. And they had also hired a very famous doctor in cancer named Carl Simonton. And Simonton was the one that actually did the first study, the first clinical 5-year study in attitude in cancer patients. And they found that the patients with the better attitudes were going into remission faster and staying in remission longer. So I had read his book called Getting Well Again while I was going through this. This was back in the early 90s. And when I went in for chemotherapy, they said, we brought in Dr. Carl Simonton to do the counseling with the cancer patients. And I thought, this is great, because I read his book and I really wanted to meet him. So when he finally came in my room and I met him, he told me that he had also been really looking forward to meeting me. And I couldn't understand why. But in the meantime, I had started doing my sound therapy work in Los Angeles, and he had heard about it through the grapevine. So he told me that he had just had a dream to do more music in his work. So he asked me if I'd be willing to come to work at his center as a sound therapist, which was in Pacific Palisades at the time. Unfortunately, we all know what happened there recently. But that's where his center was at the time. And the Cancer Treatment Centers was in Brea in Orange County, California. So before I got out of chemotherapy and went into remission, I had now 2 jobs as a sound therapist in 2 different cancer treatment centers. So it was kind of you feel like destiny is on your side in that way. I had been involved in this field since the mid-70s, actually, as a classical guitarist, who I found surprisingly, my manager was getting reports of symptom relief during my concerts. So I let that settle for years. I mean, what could that be? But this was in the mid-70s, and it sent me in a direction where I wanted to pursue that. So my manager started getting me different jobs at places where you would think that sound as therapy would be appreciated. Nursing homes, centers for abused children, centers for criminal teams, drug rehab centers, all these places where I would go in and just give a concert basically, and people were reporting symptom relief. So it kept me going in that field. And then I got into working with crystal singing bowls, Himalayan bowls, which are commonly known as Tibetan bowls. I'll show you one right here. This is an example of a Tibetan bowl, but they're really Himalayan bowls because they were never made in Tibet. They just happened to be called Tibetan bowls. And I started introducing all these instruments into the work that I was doing at the both cancer centers. So that in a short thing, and then I met my wife very much right after cancer. My mom said, when you're finished with all this chemotherapy, and I had a huge surgery after that where I have a 22-inch scar that starts at my shoulder blade in the back and comes all the way down to my pubic bone. They had to basically take me apart after chemo and do exploratory and make sure there was nothing left and put me back together. And my mom said, when you're all healed up, I'm going to take you on a healing Mediterranean cruise. So we got on the ship outside of Rome, and they had put the beds together thinking we were a married couple because we had the same last name. So I called them and I said, hey, would you please send someone down here to fix the room up for a mother and her son rather than a married couple? And they said, okay, someone will be down in a few minutes. Got a knock at the door. I opened it up, and there was my soon-to-be wife, Maria, who came to fix the room up for us. She worked for the cruise line. So out of cancer, now I had 2 jobs at cancer treatment centers and a wife-to-be. So my story is one where you come out of a crisis in your life with much more than you went into it with. So I've heard that a number of different places before, but it was encouraging for me to share that story because a lot of people going through it cannot see the light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe for some there isn't any, but for me there was, and I'm in remission. I went into remission on Valentine's Day of 1993. So I have stayed healthy ever since then from cancer anyhow. So what I would like to do today is share some of the sound work that I found very beneficial. The way I would normally get started in this work is to have people make a sound also. It's called toning, where it's just a simple vowel sound that is extended, like an ah, ooh. And research out of Canada, also back in around the 90s, from a Dr. Ranji Singh, showed that 15 minutes of just toning an ah sound in some patients increased their melatonin output by up to 1,000%. So the vibrations of the voice by bone conduction go up into the head and resonate the whole cranium and vibrate the pineal gland, which secretes the melatonin, and also the pituitary gland. Making the sound stimulates the thyroid gland. And if you put your hand on your breastbone when you talk or make a sound, you can feel that the breastbone is vibrating, which is stimulating the thymus gland behind the breastbone. So what we're looking at is voice work that's completely secular. It's not attached to any philosophy or religion or state of being. It's not chanting. It's nothing like that. It's simple results of the vibrations of your voice on your endocrine system. And this is very beneficial. So if everybody's willing to participate or just listen, what we'll do, I'll explain the vowel sounds. There are 7 different ones, and we'll go up an ascending scale. And the first vowel sound, we'll do each one 3 times. I normally do them 7 times, but that's in a setting where we have like a complete hour for this exercise. So I'm just going to shorten it to 3 times each. So this first vowel is the vowel oo. I would see it as 3 O's, and it's the oo like in the word soothe. So it's oo. And it'll be on oo for me and oo for you guys. Okay? So that's the note G, if anyone's interested. And I'll just play a little guitar along with that. And so I'll start us off. Ooh. Okay, then we'll move up.
And Ryan, just to clarify, should people be muted? I mean, I don't know how it is with sound with Zoom. Should people be muted, unmuted?
You know, they could mute,
Okay.
because then if anybody's doesn't want to be heard, let's say, or something doesn't sound very good, we don't have to listen to it. So
Okay. Okay.
just as long as you can do it, and it helps sometimes to feel, like I was just feeling my breastbone there, and I can definitely feel that sound vibrating. That's what we want to do. We want to get that sense of the vibration in the body, vibrating the skeleton and the muscles and the bones and the endocrine system and everything. So now we'll move up. This sound is a long O, and it's on the note A. O. I'll be at this O. So it's an O sound, and here we go. Take a breath. Okay. And then as we do these, I'm going to extend the silence in between so that we get a chance to just enjoy pure silence in between the vowel sounds. Now the sound is awe, like in awesome, A-W-E. And we're up here on a note B. And in between sounds, just feel any sense of inner vibration you might feel, or just enjoying the silence. And the next we'll move up. This sound is ah. A-H, the sound of relief. Ah. And this is on the note C. Okay, now we'll move up to the next sound. This is an EH sound, like in set, get. EH, and it's on the note D. Okay, now we'll move up to the next sound. This is an IH sound, like in sit, I. And then the final sound is a long E. This will be on the note F sharp. Okay, so those are the 7 vowel sounds. There are, as I said, we normally do them 7 times. It takes about 15 minutes to do the whole thing. But tonight I wanted to do a smorgasbord of different things. But that, when people say you work in sound healing, and out of all the instruments I have didgeridoos and gongs and bells and bowls and drums and and hand pans and all types of things. People ask me, what's the most healing instrument? And it's the sound of your own voice. So it's free. And when we understand that the reason people generally feel good after singing is because of this hormone stimulation that gives you a sense of kind of peace and also energy. So that's what we're after with the sound work and the voice. And it's participatory with the voice. So you are actually doing it, which I feel is therapeutic also. And then the rest of the work will be done is receptive. And that's why I wanted to make sure if people had good ways to listen. I want to do work with some of the crystal bowls and the gong and a Himalayan bowl and a little bit of guitar to end it. So I'm going to now work with the crystal bowls here. I like to give people a little bit of science behind this too, because in the field of sound healing, there are a lot of people proposing a lot of different things that have happened in the past 10 years that are very unmedical. They're very metaphysical. I like to, having been through the system and worked for hospitals, I can't go in there and tell them that this works because it's really good for the third chakra or something like that. They don't respond to that. They want to know more clinical reasons. So the endocrine system work and the absolute proof that sound therapy is very relaxing, and any bit of relaxation that's done can stimulate the immune system. So one of the things that Simonton's work did was prove that stress can create disease. Before his work, the medical institution didn't have a connection with stress and the nervous system to the immune system. Once Simonton did his 5-year study, a woman named Candace Pert, who was a researcher at the National Institutes of Health, finally found the connection between the nervous system and the immune system, and that was a receptor actually in the gut, which, long story short, confirmed gut feelings and intuitional feelings. So what has been proven definitely is the more relaxed we are, the better the immune system can now do its job. So as we get stressed out, the immune system gets sacrificed. As we relax more, the immune system can now do its job. So the purpose of just sitting and listening to tones that maybe some of you have never heard before, it can be very peaceful. So I'll demonstrate now the crystal singing bowls. The current research behind this is that there are ways to get the brain waves to lock into the sound of the bowls and come into better states of brainwave activity like alpha and theta and more relaxed brainwave activity. So just close your eyes or keep them open, but try and just listen to the sound and let it permeate you as a therapeutic sound. Yes? Are we okay with the sound? Can you hear me? Are we okay with the sound?
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. I didn't realize you were muted for a minute. Your voice was, but now we can hear you. But the
Is the
sound, the
sound working
instruments,
okay?
the instruments I could hear really well. Yeah, your voice was just muted, just super briefly.
Okay.
So, but the instruments sounded great.
Okay, so those are the crystal bowls. They're a relatively new phenomenon. They were designed for the computer industry, actually. So they came about in like the 70s or 80s when computers started to get big. And they were able to use them for a period of time, and then they couldn't use them had to be refreshed in the computer industry. And so now they had all these bowls that they didn't know what to do with. And somebody found out, oh, they make this singing sound. So there's a huge industry now for these crystal singing bowls.
Huh.
But what has been very old are the Himalayan bowls, the Tibetan bowls. And these are also very beautiful and produce different tones. So okay. And then what's also become very popular lately in the sound therapy, sound healing movement are gongs, and it's called gong therapy. So I have quite a few gongs. I'm just going to be working with the one that's behind me and trying to get some different sounds out of this also. They've developed these strikers here. They're called flumies, and they're able to get like whale sounds and things out of a gong. Here I'll have another Himalayan bowl, a little smaller. And then okay, so those are some of the instruments and sounds that are commonly used these days in what's now been called sound baths. When I started doing this work many years ago, that wasn't a term, but it's a good term. It's kind of where you're bathed in the sound vibrations for the express purpose of deep relaxation. And so it's not unusual to see people having 15, 20, 30 people in a large room come in and lie down and just spend an hour or 90 minutes meditating, praying, relaxing, contemplating, just quieting the mind and trying to go into as deep of a relaxed state as possible. So at least for that period of time, we give the immune system a chance to have no distractions and deeply do its work. And then hopefully that can carry over into our daily lives a little bit better. So I notice myself, the silence gets louder as this goes on, as you get more involved in the listening to the sounds and get quieter inside. To me, the silence and the appreciation of it, it gets louder, and there's that term, the roar of silence. It's almost when the silence is so silent that you can almost hear your own brain working sometimes. So the last thing I'd like to do is just tell a little story about this piece of music. When I met Carl Simonton, and some of you may be familiar with his work, Carl was the one that he's most famous for observing how the attitude works toward maintaining a state of health But he found that also giving people images to use, guided imagery, became very popular, and a lot of it based on his work. He's one of the, some of you may be of the generation I am, where Pac-Man was the first video game on a wide scale. Carl had the kids in pediatric cancer imagining Pac-Man going in and eating up all their cancer cells. That was one of the very first images for children, and it would work as well for adults if you enjoy doing any type of imagery work. And so Carl became very famous for leading guided imagery, taking people on inner journeys toward health, and using music for that. And when I got to know him, I played a piece of music for him that he asked me to record for an hour so that he could use that as his background for his guided imagery with children and with adults. And so this is that piece of music. It's called Recuerdos de la Alhambra, which means memories of the castle. In this case, it's the Alhambra Castle in Spain. It was written by Francisco Torrega as an homage, as an honorarium toward the beautiful Alhambra Castle.